It's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's sourdough. Hey, it's time for breaking bread with Papa. Hey, don't you know? Hey, it's also a show. Hey.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Breaking Bread with Tom Papa. I'm Tom Papa. So good to be with you on this glorious, glorious day. We've got an amazing show for you today. We've got the great chef, Scott Conant, on. He's a great restaurateur, all-around host. He's an amazing guy. I love this conversation. And then we have a quick bite with the great Dave Hill. I figure if we're going to talk to a famous chef and restaurateur who really cut his teeth in New York City, you got to check in with Dave Hill and see what he's up to in New York, because he is my co-pilot in all things decadent New York. So we'll spend some time with Dave as well. Want to thank the good people at Laithwaite's. Laithwaite's, who loves wine? We love wine here. We all know that person who brings the best wine to the party, something new and different every time. How do they do it? Maybe their secret is Laithwaite's. Laithwaite's wine. Let me spell it for you. Laithwaite's. Laithwaite's. Laithwaite's is a subscription wine service, and you can be that person at the party. All you have to do is text Papa, P-A-P-A, to 64,000. That's Papa to 64,000. And you get 6 amazing bottles of wine, plus 2 bonus bottles and 2 stemless wine glasses for only $49.99, plus tax with free delivery. That's just text Papa, P-A-P-A, to 64,000, and terms apply. It's a great service. I got some wine. I'll tell you about it a little later in the program. A really good service. So thank you to our friends at Laithwaite's. So it is fall. We are rocking along. I found myself decorating for Halloween in the house. And now that my kids are getting a little older, it's a little strange because I'm decorating by myself, which is kind of weird. There was a time when you would take the box out and you would be like, oh, remember this spider? And they would jump up and down and say, yeah, I remember that spider, and then take it and go place it someplace in the house as we would decorate. And it's not happening anymore. I dip into the box, I take the spider out, I say, who remembers this spider? And Frank, the pug, stares at me, and my wife is on a call in the other room, and my daughter's ignoring me. And I say, I remember that spider. And I go and place it someplace by myself. And I have to say, you know what? I think this is why I had kids in the first place, because I actually enjoy it. I'm like online looking at lights. I'm looking at maybe a spooky fog machine. And I'm looking at the Williams-Sonoma email that they sent. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could use one of those little pumpkin bread pans with all the little pumpkin indentations on it. That would be fun to make. I think the whole reason I had kids was so I could do all that stuff and not feel like a moron when I was younger. But now at this age, it feels like, yeah, now you're just that guy. You're just the guy that makes pumpkin bread by himself and puts like dog ears on or devil horns and walks around the house. I really don't need other people. It really comes down to me. I at the end of the month, I'll have I'll talk about it in the next episode, but as we get closer. But the big meal on the horizon is the Halloween chili, which is, I don't want to brag, but pretty legendary. So all I have to do is befriend some other children in the neighborhood and have their parents come over and eat it. But it's usually a big party, which is on a Sunday this year, which that is pretty cool because Sunday is my big cook day. And then I can make the chili and have the whole thing going. And maybe even by then I'll have the Williams-Sonoma thing. It does look cool. All right, let's get to the big show. We have a lot to do today. We've got Scott Conant. He's a famous chef, restaurateur, all-around good guy. I love talking to him. And he has a new book out called Peace, Love, and Pasta. It's a really cool book. I got it on my iPad, which was such a good move because the photography in it is insane. It's really hard to get good photography. I have tons of cookbooks, and it's tough to make it look really good. All this stuff pops, and I think it's because his dishes really pop. It's really a multicultural collection of recipes. There's Turkish recipes and Italian and American, and it's really, really well done and well thought out, and it makes you want to make all of it. And it's very approachable too. And that's what you're going to find in this conversation that I have with Scott. Very accomplished. You know, he's been all over TV. He's got books. He's got restaurants. He's just amazing. He's got two rolling right now in Arizona, and he opened Lampero in New York. That was his first big success when all the press and everybody came knocking at the door, and that was his big thing in New York City when I was a young comic. So of course I didn't eat there because I couldn't afford it. But he is such a cool guy. There's like, you know, to be a really successful restaurant personality, as we've learned even on this show when we've talked to different people, you are a host. You have to have that thing. You can have skills as a chef, but it's more than that. Your personality kind of permeates the whole place. And Scott is one of those guys. As you'll see in this conversation, it's not a fluke that he has the success that he has. He's an amazing guy. We had an amazing conversation, and I can't wait to go to his restaurants and have him cook for me, which is really, you know, the reason to do this podcast is so I can connect with my comedian friends and make new friends in the food world who will then feed me for the rest of time. And I'm going to track Scott down. And after this conversation, you'll see why. So enjoy. This is a conversation with Scott Conant. And then when we come back, we'll have a quick bite with Dave Hill. Where are you, Scott?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, nice.
I moved here about 5 years ago.
From New York?
From New York, yeah.
Wow, that's a big change when you're not 80.
Yeah. I promised myself I was going to golf twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen. That hasn't happened. I told myself I'd slow down. That didn't happen so much either. So
I did the same thing. I had this. When did you learn golf?
I think I was like 30 or so. Yeah.
And when you look back, are you like, how did I have the time then, but I don't have it now?
It's, you know, I had a weird job. I had this consulting gig through the summer of 2001,
mm-hmm.
and I would just, you know, take weekends off and things like that. It was like a consulting job. So, you know, nobody asked any questions. I just took off. It was great.
I know. I always have like my friends I used to golf with and these like golf outing guys and stuff. And they're like, what are you doing? Why aren't you playing golf? I'm like, I don't know how I had 5 hours in a row at any point in my life to play golf.
It's a time suck, right? I mean, it really, you just get lost in that, which is, I guess it's a good thing sometimes, but you know, totally. I agree with you. It's just that taking that time and kind of checking out completely it's a challenge. It's hard to do that.
I know. We'll get to it again, and then our knees will be shot. We will have no muscle tone. We'll just be one of those guys that shoots it straight and short.
It's, you know, that's the best part about golf. You could still have game.
Right. Exactly. How do you like, so how long were you in New York in total?
I was in New York City for 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I met my wife there, had my children there, and one day I woke up and I said, I mean, you don't live in New York?
Yeah, I was New York.
Yeah.
I still call myself a New Yorker, and I've been in LA, you know, then we kind of started splitting our time, and then at a certain point when the kids wanted friends in one place, we shut down New York. So it's been like 7 years since we've been there. Like,
there you go.
Since I turned in my keys.
Yeah, same. Well, it's been 5 years for me, but I went back and forth I still go back and forth, but I had an apartment there and all that. And then finally I just said, it's time to cut the cord. You know, it's time to just make a decision, for crying out loud.
I know.
1 foot in and 1 foot out is, you know, it doesn't work.
I know. My wife and I were like, this is like the most boring conversation, and we've been having it for 25 years. Of like, do we stay in New York? Do we leave New York? And then, but I have to say that first time you go back and you just have a hotel key in your pocket, It is a little weird.
It's weird because you feel like, a misfit of sorts, right? And
Yeah.
walking down the street and it's like, I know this place so well, but I'm staying at a hotel.
Yeah.
It takes some time to adjust. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your book.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to get into that for sure because Peace, Love, and Pasta could be an alternate name for this podcast.
Well, great, great.
But let's jump in it a little bit just for our listeners just to get a little more familiar with what you've done, and you've accomplished so much. And why don't you start off with when you decided, and because you talk about it a little bit in your intro too,
Yeah.
when you decided that food was going to be your destiny.
Well, I went to a vocational school in Waterbury, Connecticut, where I grew up. And people always laugh at me when I tell the story, but I wanted to get into plumbing. They had told me at the time that if you were a plumber, you could make $35,000 a year, and
Yeah.
the other kind of vocations, you only made 30. So that $5,000 to a 15-year-old kid is, that's the life for me.
Yeah, that's a jet ski.
Something. So I signed up for plumbing, and too many people had applied for the class. So as a second choice, I chose culinary arts, and fortunately, I got in. My third choice was hairdressing, and there was all kinds of hairspray jokes. I'm sure you could run away with.
Right. What was your family background that was there anything that like pushed you into food? Were there grandparents? Were there family members, or was food
Well,
not a big part of the family?
food was a big part of the family, and it still is. My mother's family is my mother is first generation Italian American. My father grew up on a farm in the north of Maine back in the day.
Right.
And food was always a focal point of the table. My grandfather had this huge garden that I talk about quite a bit in the book. But nobody really ever said go into food. As a matter of fact, my mother never thought that was a real job. I mean, she actually,
Right.
my father questioned my sexuality, and my mother, that's
With
true
food
story.
and hairdressing circling
Hair,
around?
yeah, I guess yeah, there's plumbing jokes in there too. I'm sure you could throw
Yeah.
around with.
Right, I'm sure.
But my mother was like, "What are you going to do? You're going to work at Friendly's when you get older? You're going to flip burgers? Is that?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I took it. I've taken it elsewhere.
Yeah. So where were you a
You
kid
know,
that Friendlies was in your orbit?
in Connecticut, there's a lot of Friendly's. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I was North Jersey, and
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Friendlies was the spot. Those fries were the best.
Fries were the best. Those Sundays were spectacular. I could still there was always a toss up. Is it Carvel or Friendly's? Two
Yeah.
very different ice cream experiences. But yeah,
It was
I
so
always,
cool though. It was so cool that like you could roll in there as a little kid. I don't know. You didn't need much money, but I remember like sitting like in a booth with my friends at a very young age.
yeah.
That you could actually roll in and like have a restaurant experience.
I guess you can call it a restaurant
Yeah,
experience.
kind of. A
And
little sticky. There was always a cute girl like waiting on you.
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And the sticky tables, I have a good memory of those. That's a good. Yeah, that's a really good memory. Funny.
Yeah. It is amazing though when you talk about that, like how your mom didn't even think that would be like a career. Like that generation just cooked. They just were feeding the family. They were just cranking it out. It wasn't like that. Like we walk into the kitchen. I walk into the kitchen, and it's like, okay, I'm creating on this Sunday, and it's like this big like artistic event. They were just like, let's feed these kids and get them out of here
Yeah,
as quick as
get them to
possible.
bed. Let's get them to
Yeah.
bed, right? Even if it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Anything
Yeah.
to go outside and play baseball, would you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it was at the same time that I started. I got into those classes for culinary arts. I started working at a family friend's restaurant. So I remember walking into the kitchen for the first time and just experiencing this camaraderie and this sense of team.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with it. And I remember saying to my mother, like, I don't know where this is going to take me in life, but I know that this is where I want to be.
Wow, that's such a great thing. Those moments are
Yeah,
they're so profound, really. Like you could just be stumbling around and you could have been
yeah.
miserable as a plumber and taken those courses and if not have walked into the place that really was part of your soul.
It's all about exposure, I think, and it's all
Hmm.
about staying open to it. Is another one. But how many times in your life do you come across that moment where you're like, "This is it. This is where I want to be." If you're lucky, it comes across once.
Yeah, a lot
You
of
know,
people never have it. A lot of people never
that's
get
right.
that opportunity. It's a very rare thing. How old were you at that point?
I was 15.
15. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's so great.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and it was a different world. I mean,
Yeah.
things like food TV didn't exist back then, and obviously there was no internet and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it was, it was serendipitous that it kind of fell in my path,
Yeah.
and I've loved it ever since. Yeah.
When you were a kid and what was like the meal and who made the meal that was like the thing that really excited you, or if you were down they tried to cheer you up with it, like what was the
Well, every Sunday, my mother made tomato sauce, pasta with sauce and meatballs and sausage she would stew. The recipe is actually in the book. I did
yeah.
this kind of my version of it. I'm never going to be able to find it, of course, but there's a great photo in this of my mom's kind of Sunday sauce, and it's it's great. I had to call her and say, Mom, how do you make this and all this all this kind
Oh
of stuff
really? Did
because
she
I've
write
never
any
I
of it down? I was we forced my mother to actually write all the stuff out because she there was all these great recipes and we didn't have any of them.
well, I did ask her to write it down. Here's a photo of that, like the
Oh my God.
sauce and the meatballs, and there's a couple lamb shanks in there if you could see it. But that's
Man.
every Sunday. That was it, and we would walk by. She would always buy this particular bread uh, from Waterbury, a company called Miletes. I don't even know if they're still around anymore.
Right?
And we would just dunk that bread inside the sauce, and that was,
Oh,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was
oh,
it
the
was
best. My
great. Yeah,
God, the best.
good stuff.
Do you make that sauce for your family now?
I don't. I cook
You don't.
completely differently than that. I've made it for them and they loved it. I did a show the other day and I had to make a similar style, more like a Neapolitan ragu,
Yeah.
with little polpettine, which is also in the book, and they just ate it up. And my wife, who's from Brooklyn, who's Turkish from Brooklyn,
Right.
um, it was so nostalgic for her. She's like, it reminds me of going to my friend's house on the weekends, and so
Yeah.
she was really mad at me that I left it. I had to run. So I jumped on a plane as soon as I was done with it. I left it all there and she very promptly ate it all. And of course, it's all my fault.
So what why wouldn't you be making that on Sundays when you're around? Where's your do you or this may be a tricky question. You may be exhausted from cooking that you don't cook at home that much.
Oh, I love cooking at home and I love those experiences with my daughters.
Yeah, there's a
Cooking,
beautiful shot in the beginning of the book. It's just so cute.
thank you. Yeah, they, of course, we got all those photos were taken about a year ago. And so my oldest, who's now 11, almost 12, is like, oh my God, like how that picture, it's awful. How do we get this book off the shelves? Like you're stuck there, honey.
It's the funniest. I know. I have two daughters as well, and I'll like you know how the iPhone like pops up the memories and stuff,
Yes,
and
yes.
it'll like crush you. You're just like, oh, I can't believe it, and I'll share it with the family, and every time one of them comes back with, "Ew, I was disgusting." It's like,
Yes, yes.
why am I sharing this with you?
Cutest kids, cutest. I miss those days. I don't miss the work
Yeah,
that went into taking care of them because it was, I mean, arduous is an understatement,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh my
But
God,
I do miss the cuteness and the cuddliness and they
I
liked
know.
me,
I know.
seemingly liked me.
Yeah, yeah, they actually told you things.
They did.
They
They
actually
did.
shared with you. I
It's
know
so funny.
it is. So when they were that little, where were you in your career? Like when they were like two or like two, three, four, five.
I had a restaurant group that I had founded and I was running,
Oh my
and then I
God.
stepped away from all of it,
Yeah.
and I kind of and that was what precipitated the move to, I just worked nonstop, and I regret that. I regret those days
Do you?
of, missing them so little, because they were just so
Yeah,
perfect. They were
I
just
know.
amazing.
I know. But you had to. It's that weird thing.
Yeah, yeah,
You had
yeah.
to. All right. So what was your first spot when you opened up your first restaurant?
So I was kicking around New York City for a while. My first review was in '98 at a restaurant called Chianti. But the
Right.
first restaurant that I actually was a partner at was a restaurant called L'Impero in 2002. And
Right.
that's when everything started taking off for me. We won Best New Restaurant in James Beard Award. And I won Best New Chef for Food and Wine, and all the stuff that, those accolades that,
Yeah.
you're kind of quote unquote supposed to get.
Yeah.
Um, and we had a great run there, and then I stopped that. We opened up another restaurant called Alto. I sold my shares of that company. I went on to start a restaurant called Scarpetta, which I then put in a bunch of different cities, and then I
Right.
walked away from that also, and I'm
Wow.
doing other things now. Yeah,
Where was Alto?
it was on 53rd between Fifth and Madison.
Between Fifth and Madison.
Yeah, north
Yeah.
side of the street. There was a
Right.
big piece of the Berlin Wall outside, and it was just like an art installation that was
Wow.
beautiful. And
Amazing.
everybody would walk right past that into the restaurant. So, yeah, it was a
Man,
special time.
that had to be a pretty heady thing when you start winning those awards and it's all popping off. That was 2002, you said?
2002, yeah,
Yeah. What were
2003 stuff.
were you like, "Oh, was it a confirmation or was it like it had to have been?"
Well, I'll tell you, the first time I saw my name in the New York Times, Ruth Reichel had written about me, and Ruth was just such, she was such an icon,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe that, she had come into the restaurant. It was a small neighborhood restaurant at
Yeah.
55th and Second Avenue,
Wow.
um, and Geraldine Delaney was my PR person at the time, and she pushed, and she was also representing Jean Georges, and that was when Jean Georges opened up his signature restaurant, Jean Georges.
Right.
So the fact that she gave us any attention was shocking, but
Yeah.
because she had JG, for crying out loud. But I'll never forget picking up the paper and, working hard, and being an American guy in an Italian kitchen frankly, is never easy.
Yeah.
Um, and then, my name was there, and she liked the restaurant, and
Oh,
there were a couple of compliments in there, and I was just overwhelmed
yeah.
with all of it, because I was so, first of all, full of gratitude. And on top of it, I felt like the clouds had gone away. Like I wasn't crazy for thinking that my food is good or special. And
Right.
that was a big moment. Yeah.
That's a great way to describe it. That's a great way to describe it when the clouds went away, right? Because you don't know, like you're passionate. You've got this real strong feeling that you're on the right thing, but
Yeah.
then you have a lot of years where you're just not getting the break, and you're watching other people get the breaks, and then when
And,
it
and,
happens, it's like,
and
oh,
the and the tough thing is when you see people who you don't think are doing as good a job as you are, right? I mean,
yeah,
we're all
yeah,
critical of ourselves, and we're critical of our colleagues, and you're
sure,
trying to, you want everybody to have success, but not as much success as you.
right,
Right?
yeah,
So,
exactly,
so yeah, those were big things, and
yeah,
I was just, later on, I kind of parlayed it into other opportunities,
yeah,
um, and I, you know, gratitude along the way, I think, is really important. I never take this stuff for granted. God
yeah,
knows.
yeah,
There's too
no.
many. There's too many things that can go wrong.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I don't know if I'm sure you'll be able to answer it. I'm always puzzled by the. It's almost like looking at a director with film. Like you have your talent, you have your personality, but you can go into a restaurant. There's so many other moving parts, and I mean, everything from the table to the cutlery to the thing. Like, how do you get your personality? How does the head chef's and owner's personality persevere and become like actually the feeling of the place?
Well, I think that's the culture that you have to create.
Uh huh.
That like any business, any entrepreneurial endeavor, I feel like it's the culture that you're creating is more important than the quote unquote widgets that you're making.
Right.
So, you know, once you have your culture in place, then you could pretty much do anything, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, because you have everybody is kind of on board, like-minded people. I
Right.
always think the success of the Beatles was because they were all in the same place together. And it was almost like they were channeling something with
Yeah.
the amazing amount of talent that they, in that, that constant evolution that they were creating for themselves as well. And
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
and I think I really in my heart believe that that's what it is. As long as you're vibing in the same on the same
Mm-hmm.
wavelength, you could do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer. That's pretty perfect. So what was the main dish of that restaurant at the time when you were winning the James Beard and all that? What was like the signature?
So so I was talking to someone recently, and he had pulled the menu out,
Uh-huh.
and it was broken down to appetizers, pastas, main courses. There was a really good cheese course with Ruth Reichel when she was at Gourmet Magazine.
Uh-huh.
Um, uh, Wrote about a little bit. She was at the restaurant all the time, which was
Oh
also
yeah.
very flattering.
Wow.
But we did this three-course menu, and it was $39 for three courses.
Wow.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen these days. And
No.
that was a high-end restaurant. It was a three-star New York Times restaurant.
Yeah.
But it was a creamy polenta with a fricassee of truffled mushrooms, which was one of the dishes that I
Mm.
did. This spaghetti pomodoro, which I still do to this day. It's been successful. I tweaked the recipe over time and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I did a moist roasted baby goat. It was capretto. And
Oh.
those were the three highest selling dishes. People would come
Wow.
in and order them all the time. Yeah.
Oh, they
That was
sound
the
so
kind of the
good.
three courses that everybody would
Yeah.
go for.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's so great.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to maintain consistency? Like you get that, and it's like you have to try and nail it all the time. That sounds pretty.
The,
Every
the,
time I make something, it's it's profoundly different each time.
it's a big challenge. It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
getting recipes and making sure they're right. I had a restaurant one time where one of the sous chefs just couldn't make things just like you're saying. He just couldn't do things
Yeah.
twice the same way. It would drive me crazy. Like, how do
Yeah.
you do a shiitake consomme and have it be a different color, a different flavor every single time you make it? Like, what are the customers going to think about this?
Yeah. It's
What
gonna
kind
kill
of
you.
soup is it today? I mean, it's really bananas,
It's
honestly.
crazy.
Yeah. So those are I think that all falls under the culture thing also, to make
Yeah.
sure that, every day walking down the line, doing line checks, making sure the chef and sous chefs are tasting everything and it's consistent all the time. And
Yeah.
those are monotonous jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but necessary,
Yeah.
obviously. And I think drilling that into a young chef's head, is the most important thing. You
Yeah.
see it all the time. If
Right.
somebody is making something that's inconsistent, it's
Right.
frustrating for the customer. And ultimately, it's not about me. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about, the cook. Try to get that through a young cook's head.
Yeah.
It's about the customer. You want the customer to be happy and satisfied and coming
Right.
back
Yeah.
and
Every time they come back and get that same dish, they want to have that experience.
and also the server. They need to feel comfortable selling these things. And
Right.
if that sales pitch, the expectations aren't met by the customer,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
feel really foolish, and that's just a terrible place to live.
Right. There's no my
There's
my
that's a trust thing that goes back and forth between the front of house and the back of house. Yeah.
Right, right. There's nothing better. My favorite waiter move is when you're like, should I have the duck or the chicken? And they don't even look at you. They just start writing, and mutter under their breath, "Oh, the duck."
It's
Like he ends the
no,
conversation. I just
it's
love that
normally
move.
because the duck is more expensive on the menu, so they're going for the upsell.
Ah, that ruins it.
I do, I do that in every restaurant just to see what's your best thing, what's your favorite thing on the menu. Oh, you got to have the venison. The venison is amazing. The venison is $65. The chicken is 19. Like, of course you're going to go for the venison.
It's terrible. All right, one more question about the old days, then I want to get into the book.
Tell me.
And when you were hitting it, that 98, I was in New York as a young comic at the time, and it just seemed like I couldn't afford to go to all these spots, but it seemed like it was the celebrity thing of the chefs, the New York thing, like all of those big names around New York. Was it as exciting and fast paced as it seemed from the outside?
Um, in hindsight, I think it was fast paced, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like that Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson song. Like you just want, go a little faster, put that beat a little faster. Like I'm ready for it,
Yeah,
I'm here.
yeah.
Like we're
Right.
we're on this treadmill. Let's go. But
Yeah.
Gourmet Magazine back then would have monthly parties, and they were great because we would see everybody, and
Right.
all these chefs would show up for it, all these restaurant people, and it was just good times. Really, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
really good times. Yeah.
Oh man. Did you a lot of cooks, chefs and stuff ended up drinking their faces off and and partying like really like rock stars and stuff. Did you have a phase like that, or did you
I
keep it even?
I did. My roommate at the time owned a pretty well-known wine shop.
Uh-huh.
Um, so we would sit down with bottles of wine, and I remember one time we were hanging out at his shop, and the two of us, we drank 23 bottles of wine over an 8-hour period, just sitting
No.
there. Needless to say, I don't drink anymore. But yeah,
Man, oh
once the
man.
tequila started flowing, or there's a bottle of tequila on the table,
Yeah.
normally when the chemicals came out is when that was, that was, my
Yeah.
father would have killed me if he thought I was doing drugs. So I,
Right.
I, I would, I would sneak out. I was a good boy. But
Oh
yeah,
man.
the alcohol, we would drink our faces off, to use your
Wow.
line, 100%. Yeah.
Wow. So you're cold turkey now? No like wine anymore?
Yeah, I was at a wedding a couple months ago, and the the uh, the bride's father is a really good friend of mine, and he
Yeah.
broke out some great
Mm.
Barolos and Barbarescos from the
Oh.
from the 80s,
Oh.
and I can't say no to that. Like that's
Yeah.
because that's not drinking.
That's
That's just
not.
that's history in a bottle. That's appreciation. And
Oh.
I was actually in Italy for some of those pressings, as a matter of fact, of some of the bottles that he was opening.
No.
So yeah,
Jeez.
so it was
Yeah.
special, and yeah. But other than that, I just can't. The idea of drinking tequila, which was my preference,
Yeah.
it just kind of nauseates me now. I hate
Right.
to
Yeah,
say
I
it. It's
get that.
really,
Yeah.
ooh,
Oh, no, I
bad
get that.
news. Bad
Y-
news.
Yeah. No, but you're right. I mean, those bottles are just, I mean, that isn't drinking. That's an experience. That's like going to church.
It really is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there's all kinds of church jokes I was going to throw, but I'm going to keep it above board, if that's all
Right.
right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry. Family show.
So you have this really great history, and it's such a great trajectory, and pretty wild times when you look back at it, and like going into restaurant groups and getting all that stuff. And then it's pretty cool that the beginning of your book, which is Peace, Love, and Pasta, and then people can get it right now, you start off with in the praise of simplicity. And
Yeah.
I love that. That to me is like, I'm far from a great chef, but I do love cooking and baking. And I'm always thinking, just do fewer things really well rather
Yeah.
than try and do everything.
Well, one of the things that, as I was cooking through this book and testing recipes, and working with my culinary assistant at the time, um, I was shocked at how these things would kind of come together so quickly. I mean, if
Hmm.
these are things that I've cooked for decades now, honestly. Some
Yeah.
of the recipes are from my childhood. Some are, from my neighbor growing up, Kathy Vitone, who was like a grandmother to me. There's
Right.
her spinach soup inside there, but they're variations and versions of these things. And
Right.
I think that overall, the surprising thing to me as I was cooking was they would just really come together quickly.
Hmm.
Sometimes things take a long time to cook, but this morning I did a TV segment, and we made this roasted pork shoulder.
Right.
Um, and as I was, it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm lopping off pieces of this pork shoulder, saying, "Oh my God, this is delicious!" It's not really. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing when some of these things they're so easy to put together.
Yeah.
Some of the ingredients, I have to admit, you can get online and things like that. They're maybe a little bit out there.
Hmm.
Um, but
Like
they're
what?
easily accessible. The neonata, for example, there's a fusilli with chicken livers and neonata.
Oh yeah.
Neonata is like, it's a little baby fish in Calabrian chili spread,
Oh wow.
that they have in Calabria. But you can get that online, and
Right.
it even says, if you can't get the neonata, use a little extra fish sauce and some extra Calabrian chilies.
Right.
So there's a lot of things like that
Yeah.
um, as you're cooking these things and it's starting to come together, you say, wow, it's
Yeah.
done already.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And the flavors are where you want them to be.
An interesting thing just for home cooks to keep in mind is that think ahead. Like you can't just roll into the kitchen and be like, I'm going to try this from this book, this new recipe, because it's going to be
Yeah.
three things and three runs to the store. But if you think about it a day ahead, my wife always laughs at me because I'll be sitting on the couch reading a cookbook. She's like, "It's not a novel. What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm just you'll thank me on
Yes.
Sunday."
Yeah. But in a lot of ways, I mean, listen, just as far as that idea that you're putting a recipe together, I always tell people, read the recipe through first to make sure that you understand the steps. Because if
Right.
you're just kind of going at it cold, you're looking at the ingredients, okay, I have all this stuff. You start to assemble things. You
Yeah.
get on the third step, you're like, oh, I wish that I'd known, just read it through fully.
Yeah.
Treat
Yeah.
it like a novel. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
why not?
No,
Why
I
not?
love reading it. And this book is so beautiful. It really is. I mean, I don't know who did your
Thank you.
photography, but everything looks so amazing.
There's a New York photographer named Ken Goodman, who's a longtime friend and just a real talent.
Yeah.
And he came out to right in the middle of the pandemic, and it was in July. He
Uh-huh.
came out. We rented an Airbnb, and I got my culinary team together, and we just assembled all these dishes over a 4-day period. And
Oh,
he knocked them out. I mean, there were there's so many photos kind of that aren't in here, which is unfortunate because there's some
right.
great food photos. We just couldn't fit everything.
Jeez. I mean, everything.
Yeah,
The gnocchi with clams looks so good. I've never seen it with clams.
it's a really good texture. It's a great gnocchi recipe, I have to say.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
say, yeah.
So what's your advice to someone when you are in search of good ingredients? Like, cause it's so many times you'll like roll into your supermarket and you get a tomato and it's like, it doesn't have that flavor of, sometimes like you'll nail every ingredient in a recipe, but it just doesn't pop. And
Yeah, a lot of times, no, was there something else? I didn't
no,
mean
no,
to
no, that's
interrupt.
it.
No, so, um, I think it's like you said, you gotta think ahead. Sometimes you have to get a tomato and let it sit on your counter for 5 days for it to
Hmm.
ripen. Um, Avocados are good luck timing those things, right? They have a
Yeah.
they have a whole cycle of their own.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to time those things. And also, a lot of times I feel like people try to rush recipes.
Hmm.
It says saute the onions for 7 minutes. Every range is different.
Right.
The amount of heat and BTUs that come off of every range, in whether it be home or commercial usage,
Hmm.
they vary. An electric stove is different than an induction, then it's different than a gas
Yeah.
stove. So I always say go with feel. If it says caramelize the onions, take the extra time to caramelize them properly, because
Right.
that depth is a foundation of flavor. And I
Right.
always say that the first thing you put in a dish is going to be the last thing you taste.
Right.
So the last thing you put in a dish is the first thing you taste. If you finish a pasta with basil and
Hmm.
serve it right away, you're going to taste that basil immediately. That
Right.
perfume kind of comes off of the food that you're cooking. So
Right. Right.
it's important to check those steps, allow yourself the time to nurture the food that you're cooking. I always say, if you put the same love into the food, into the cooking process, that you do for the people that you're cooking it for,
Right.
and you can't lose. You
Yeah.
can't lose.
It's amazing. It's almost an eerie thing, but there's such a difference when you're cooking with people in mind. When you
Yeah.
like there it really does something to, I don't know, just to the way you're going after it. You just have them in mind. You want them to be happy. They're either returning and they're going to, or it's
Yeah.
somebody new. And I try and do it every Sunday. We try and have people over, and
That's
especially
great.
young people who are hungry, who are like in school and are poor. And you just really, there's that dish it will come out better than if
Oh
I
yeah.
just was making it for like myself.
Well, that's a smart move to cook for people who are hungry, because when they become really successful, they owe you. I mean,
Right.
that's
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, and it's better than people our age because no one's at the table talking about their colonoscopies or.
yeah, yeah. All the medication they're on now.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
So,
here's your wife is Turkish,
hmm
and
yeah,
you have all this Italian roots and stuff, but it seems like you mentioned that you're cooking a lot that way. What is
yeah.
I'm not really that aware of what that style is.
Oh, it's very Middle Eastern.
Hmm.
Hummus and their version of the tzatziki and all that kind
Right.
of stuff. Some of the stuff that's inside here. I mean, you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's dishes that could be Lebanese. I mean, it's Middle
Yeah.
Eastern food. So as you
Right.
go throughout the Middle East, a lot of those things,
Yeah.
it's the
Crossover.
same but different. You know what I mean? There's little
Yeah.
tweaks here and there. Um, but there's a burek that I put inside the book. It was one of the first things my wife ever made for me,
Oh yeah.
and I just fell in love with it. It's so good. I
What
did
is
a
it
meat
again?
one and burek, Borek, burek, and
Yeah.
there's an eggplant one and there's a beef one, and they're just special. There's so
Right.
many things in here that if
Yeah.
if I can't just choose one thing to say this is what I would cook for you today. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. No, I
I just
know.
couldn't do
It's
it.
God. It's yeah. You just scrolling through it, and I also have it on my iPad, so
Oh,
the
good.
lights coming up, and it's like so beautiful. It's like all
It.
lit.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, I'll
Yeah.
I'll go through it also. And there's this prime rib photo that is in the middle of
Yes.
right in the middle of the book, and it's just good stuff. This is the pernil, kind of a play on a pernil, the pork shoulder that I did earlier today. I want to make this on Thanksgiving, but no one in my house eats pork, so
Uh,
it's just, it's
Man,
just one
oh,
of
that's
those
my
things.
problem.
Yeah,
I live with three vegetarian women, my wife and daughters, and it's like
that's a
everything.
challenge.
It's such a challenge because even like these little pasta dishes, oh, I just want to put anchovy in it. I just want to put anchovy in it, and you end up making two or three different versions of the
That's right.
same thing. Oh, it's such
That's
a
that's
challenge.
that's love. That's love. If
Yeah.
you're cooking for your family like that, that's love. Yes.
There's no way around it. There's no
Yeah,
way
you got
around
no
it.
choice. They're gonna not eat.
It's so
That's,
funny. We got two dogs, and for the first time, my wife is like she's more accepting of me cooking meat in the house
for the
because
dogs.
she's like the dogs will get it. Like when I was cooking
Yeah.
for myself, she was like, "Ew, just stop it." And now that Bella can possibly get some, she's like,
Yes.
Do we have any meat today?"
That's great. That's hysterical. Yeah, the dogs are better cared for than you are. That's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah,
that's right.
completely. Yeah, it's
Better
a whole.
looked after.
Yeah, she has a better relationship with them.
That's funny.
Man, but this is exciting though to try this Turkish stuff because I love Middle Eastern food. But it's
Yeah.
a weird thing. I mean, I was raised Italian, and that's my whole language in the
Yeah.
kitchen is that, and just because I have all those references and I know when I'm going the right way or the wrong way, and like to go and start like I'll order Turkish food or Middle Eastern food,
Yeah.
but I don't have like the roots and the history, so it's like you know it seems more daunting to me.
It is. That's the way I approached it. But there's a simplicity with that food as well,
Hmm.
which really, it dovetails, I would say, in a lot of ways
Right.
to the food uh, throughout, the Mediterranean part of Europe.
Right.
So we have a home in Bodrum also, which if you've never been to Bodrum, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's right where the Adriatic and the Mediterranean seas meet. Or I'm sorry,
Wow.
the Aegean and the Mediterranean meet, and it is stunningly beautiful.
Oh,
You go out in some of those waters, and some of the islands are interspersed. Some are Turkish, some are Greek, and it's just beautiful. It
oh
really
man,
is. Yeah,
man.
special places.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds like a good spot to go to. So,
Yeah,
what are you up to
yeah.
now? What besides the book? What's going on Are you're working just primarily in Arizona? Do you still have your spot in New York?
I have one in New York in the Catskills. I was just there for the book launch. As a matter of fact, it's at a casino called Resorts World, and we did the book launch there. And
Ah,
I can't believe how many people showed up for it. It was great.
wow.
It was really good for my ego.
Yeah, that's
You know,
great. That's great.
it's
Is the Catskills? Tell me about the Catskills right now. I haven't been there in years.
yeah, it's going great. I mean,
Is it?
I have a steakhouse there called Chelayo, and it's busy and people are happy.
That's
Um,
great.
and what else is there when
Yeah.
you open up a restaurant, you want people to enjoy it. So
Yeah.
yeah, in the hotel, they're great. It's a great partnership. Um,
Cool.
it's, as I said, it's very busy, and it's going really well.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's good.
Yeah, if you were to have told me that I'd have a restaurant in the Catskills and it would be busy, I would say you were crazy. But
Well,
it's
yeah,
but
but it's
it's
a
working.
weird thing.
Yeah.
Like it was really, really popular at one time, when
Yeah.
people would go up in the 50s and 60s and stuff, and then it kind of really fell off. But it
Yeah.
seems like it's one of those, it's like Atlantic City. It's like this should work. You're too close to these major cities and people want to get
Yeah.
away. Doing it
Yeah.
right, like it seems like it would be a good destination. It's good to hear.
Yeah, it's going well because of that. I mean, it is surprising to me how many people go up there and say, I used to come here as a kid and I haven't been
Yeah.
here for, 15, 20 years or whatever the case may be. And
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
there's so much nostalgia for so many people in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. And what's
Yeah,
your
it's
other
great.
spot you get in your Arizona spot?
I have two. I have one called Mora Italian, and another one called the Americano. The Americano is a steakhouse, and Mora is kind of like a modern osteria.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice. That sounds
yeah,
great.
it's great. It's great.
Man, oh man. All right. Well, I'm going to adjust my tour and and roll back through Arizona. I haven't I went
Come
through
on
there
in.
before we met. Yeah, I'll have to
Yeah.
we'll have to do it for sure. I'd
Well,
love to sit down and break bread with you for sure.
I'd love to cook for you. Yeah,
Ah,
that'd be
that's even
that'd be
better.
fun. That'd be
Yeah.
fun. We can cook together.
Yeah, no, I don't want to screw things up. All right, let me ask you this last question.
Yes, sir.
Uh, in my house, what is the most important thing to have in your kitchen? I know that's kind of like a big list, but
Oh, that's a good one.
is it the
I
knives? Is it what is it?
The one thing that I found, and I've said this a few times, that once I really started cooking at home a lot during the pandemic,
Hmm.
I needed the right tools, and
Yeah.
it depends on what those tools are. It depends on what you're cooking. So, like a really good spider, like what a spider is, right? Like it's
Okay.
like a net, not a net, but
Like a
like
strainer?
kind of like a strainer, but it's on a handle, so you can
Uh-huh.
just scoop things out of the water.
Right.
That's really important. I
Right.
found things like a really good peeler, for example. If you don't
Right.
have a really good peel and you're struggling with it, you cut yourself, whatever the case may be. I
Yeah.
mean, just having the right tools to get the job done the right way
Yeah.
is vital. It's
Right.
imperative. Having
Right.
proper saute pans and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
My
I had to go
pans.
to storage and take everything out.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a tip on pans? My pans are just all crap right now, and I'm like, we've got to upgrade. And what are the right kind?
There's so
So
many.
many.
A
I
lot of
know.
people are talking about Made In right now.
Maiden?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Madein, and Tom Colicchio's behind him. He really believes in him, from what I understand.
Right.
There's I have a lot of all clad. I have some Demeyer, and I have
Hmm.
some Moviel. Moviel are what I buy in the restaurants. It's a really high end saute pan,
Right.
and they're going to last your whole life and your
Yeah.
kids' lives. I mean, they're going to be around forever.
All right.
But
All
you
right.
can't
Cool.
sleep on a great cast iron pan, right? I mean, I love cast iron. Yeah,
I know. So do I. I
yeah,
really. Oh my God. They really are the best. And I'm the
yeah,
only one in the family that has the muscle strength to pull it out of the thing, so
yeah.
it's mine.
There you go.
Well, thanks so much. This was really great. Good luck with the book. Everybody's
Thank
got to
you.
go out and get it. It really is so beautiful, and congratulations on really on just a great career. The book is Peace, Love, and Pasta. All right, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you. Thanks so much.
All right, man. Laithwaite's Wine subscription service is an easy way to bring exciting new wines to your doorstep. Unbox a world of wine with easy access to different and unexpected winemakers from all over the globe. For over 50 years, Laithwaite's has been delivering wine the right way, from people who love making it to the people who love drinking it. They go out, they travel the world, they find these great wines, and then they bring them to us. They sent me a box. Very exciting. I love when I get wine in the mail. It's such a treat. I mean, we get excited when like Amazon shows up and you get a little package, you get, oh, something for me. When it's a bigger box and and it says Laithwaite's on the side and it's wine inside, that's a different level of joy. And the cool thing, unpack it, put it all into the wine fridge. And then when we had people over, nothing better than reaching in and knowing that this bottle is going to be good. I'm not an expert. I'm educating myself. I love wine. I'm learning as I go. And I'm not to say, I don't know who is a wine expert, frankly. There's probably like 6 of them. I know my way around. I know what's good. I know what's bad. But when you've got friends over and you just want to grab something, you're in the middle of cooking, you can reach in and that any bottle that you get from Laithwaite is going to be solid. The Bee's Knees is a zingy, thrilling South African wine. I haven't had that one yet. The one that I had, this one, Red Sedan, big, luscious flavors, a nice Cabernet and Shiraz blend. Really was so perfect. I had that with my big pasta. Laithwaite's tastes over 40,000 wines a year, but only 600 make the cut. So you enjoy the cream of the crop, and it's 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't love a wine for any reason, Laithwaite's will refund you for that bottle. Members save on every subscription case they choose to take, and each box includes tasting notes, food pairing tips, and serving inspiration. Nothing better than getting a story with your wine. Just connects you to the place, connects you to it, helps educate you, and also just enjoy it more. Now you can get 6 amazing bottles of wine plus 2 bonus bottles and 2 stemless wine glasses for $49.99 plus tax with free delivery. Just text PAPA, P-A-P-A, to 64,000. All you got to do is text it, and you'll get this special offer. Text PAPA to 64,000, and terms will apply. Available at laithwaites.com. It's really great. Go to laithwaites.com and check them out. I guarantee you, this is a good service. I'm so happy they're part of the Breaking Bread experience, and I wouldn't steer you wrong. It's a good, solid place to enjoy wines from all around the world and impress your friends and act like a cool guy. All right, now it's time for a quick bite with our good friend Dave Hill. As you know, Dave's on my live Come to Papa all the time. He's a very talented comedian. He's a writer. He's got, I think, 3 or 4 books out now. He's an amazing guitarist. He's got a crazy band called Witch Taint. He's hilarious. His Instagram is one of the funniest out there, at Dave Hill. Just one of my favorite people. And I love, more than anything, when I go to New York, I get to contact Dave, and then we go out and eat, usually at our secret spot, which we'll talk about in New York. It's not really a secret. We can't stop talking about it. So you're going to find out in the phone call. And we just love everything about going out in New York and dining and eating. And we're not going like the top end. We're not millionaires. We're just solid lovers of New York and good experiences. We love a nice cold martini, and we love to go out and experience it. And I apologize. Dave brings up something in this conversation that's pretty upsetting on a food level. Nothing you got to turn the radio off and not let the kids hear, but it's pretty disgusting. It really made me question, why do I go out and eat with Dave? But this is actually, it answers the question why I don't eat breakfast with Dave. But the rest of it is on point. Love Dave Hill. So let's get on the phone and give him a quick call and grab a quick bite with Dave.
Dave, hello. How's it going? Really great. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing well. I just had a bagel. And
wow, what kind of bagel?
Which is pretty, I got them on Sunday, but then you have the extras, and you're like, Sunday you're like, okay, I can go crazy and go bagels. And then Monday you should start dialing it in. Have maybe an apple. But there's that big fat bagel just waiting for you on Monday morning, and I know I'm going to be asleep by noon. I did it anyway.
You're a champion.
I'm doing my part.
You know, I've been on this diet where I eat a lot of bagels, and I find that it tricks my metabolism.
What do you mean?
Your body, it sends your body into this state of shock. Abuse you're doing to it, and it fights back. So once you get the rhythm, you can have a bagel every day.
Oh, really?
You've seen me lately. I'm looking fairly trim, right?
Yeah, you're looking fairly trim. I think, it's funny because we were virtually the same size. And
we're body doubles.
Body doubles. And I have to, I'm literally filming something for the rest of this week. And I was like, I'm gonna drop down 5 pounds to before I shoot it. And then, of course, bagels and things interrupted that plan. And so I'm going in a little heavier than I am. And I realized this morning, nobody knows. Nobody cares.
This is, exactly, you're exactly right. I mean, my weight has fluctuated over the years, and I know there's things I can look at on camera where I was like, oh, wow, I was really at my best right then. And I don't feel any better about it, even myself. I'm not, I don't look any better than I did when I was 15 pounds heavier. I'm just getting through life.
I know. And and you beat yourself up like, I'm so fat. What's wrong with me? I'm a monster. And it's like, I think I'm going into this one just free and just saying, this is just what it is. And you know what? If I want to eat chips in the green room, I'm eating chips.
Do it. Live your life. Plus, as we get older, Tom, really you got to lean into those character actor roles anyway. So an extra 20, 30 pounds, that's just more bookings, I think.
It's true. No one's coming to me to take the place of Bradley Cooper.
Yeah. I mean, I think you would do a bang-up job in any of his roles.
Well, he's the guy I'm gunning for, but
yeah.
So we had this great guy on the program a little earlier before I put the call into you, Scott Conant, who's this great chef in New York, restaurateur, and just a really talented, good guy. And whenever I talk to people about eating out in New York, I feel like I got to give Dave a call. I got to check in and talk about our triumphs and our next plan of attack.
Oh yes, I'm ready.
What have you been doing in my absence?
Dining wise or just life wise?
Yeah, dining wise.
Oh, I think I've probably been Gene's. I as much as I don't like to say the name out loud for fear of ruining our secret restaurant. Mm-hmm. I've been there a few times, I'm sure.
Nice. Indoor or outdoor?
I'm still outdoor. I mean, I've eaten indoors a few times, but I sort of, if I can have a nice outdoor meal, I'll go that route. Just trying to dodge Delta as long as I can.
Yeah.
Or whip me around like a rag doll. It'll catch me eventually, but so far.
Are you going with the same at Gene's, your same game plan, or have you changed it up?
I mix it up sometimes. Well, I mean, I really only have a few moves. I'll do a chicken parm. Mm-hmm. I'll do a penne with tomato and basil, and then of course the power move, as I think we've discussed on this program. I hope maybe we haven't, but the chicken liver mousse on garlic bread, which is that's luxury living.
I was daydreaming on the plane about Gene's, and I was thinking, it's a cool James Bond kind of move. Sliding into the bar, ordering a nice cold martini, getting the chicken livers on garlic toast. When the martini's done, maybe 2 martinis, and the chicken livers are done, you pay your tab and walk out the door.
I mean, that's restraint. That's the definition of restraint, Tom.
Is it restraint or is it the definition of cool?
It's pretty cool. I mean, I thought you were going to say that you were going to land on the roof in a helicopter first or something.
No, but, you just put a large tip on the bar. You do the gun fingers at the bartender, and you walk out. And I guarantee you'd be satisfied.
No, you're right. Maybe I'll try that tonight.
Oh, I'm jealous.
And report back.
Jealous.
We also have to go to one of my other favorites, Frenchette. Have you been there yet?
Oh, you know what? I have not been there, but I was looking up French spots last time I was through. Is that the one on the west side?
Yeah, it's in Tribeca.
Right. How is it?
It's the best. I mean,
really?
And it's like it's amazing.
Really?
Yeah. I'm friends with the owners too, so I can make it happen.
What's your go-to there?
Well, the menu's always changing, but the lobster is great. They do a duck that's really great.
You're cracking open like a lobster with the bib and everything?
No, they do that for you.
Oh, that's nice.
Because I don't like to do a lot of work I just like to shovel. You know how I am.
Yeah.
That's like as anyone when you're like in Maryland and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, do you want to go crab?" Where they just dump like 500 crab on the table, and you're supposed to work. No. No interest.
I did that. When was it? I guess a couple of years ago. I was on tour with Live from Here, and we went through Maryland, and we went to one of those crab places, like the legendary places, and we were with the band Dawes, and we got these big crabs. I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. This is so authentic, and I had like one little tiny cut on my finger from whatever, like a paper cut.
Oh, yeah.
It was the most excruciating meal of my life.
Oh, yeah. Every time. Yeah, and then the shells can cut you too.
Right.
And it's like
you're filled with sodium from Old Bay.
Oh, yeah. It's horrible. I just usually give up altogether and just get really drunk.
And watch your friends.
Yeah, because I don't like meals where you're working for the food as much as you're shoving it in your mouth.
Right, exactly. Anything that comes with a bib, you should be leery of.
Yeah, don't get me started on fondue and those things also where you have to cook your own meal at the table.
Right. I don't even like seeing the waiter do it. Like when you go to like a Benihana kind of place. Like I don't even want to see that guy sweating.
No, that's a nightmare.
Yeah. Not into it. So what did you have for breakfast today?
I'm glad you asked, Tom. I'm on a new... I know this goes against everything I just said about the bagels. I did buy a bunch of bagels this morning, but then I had... My new thing is I learned this from... Do you know Puddle's Pity Party?
Mm-hmm.
Puddles. I went and did a thing with him in Atlanta. I did this live stream show. Oh, call coming in.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. And he turned me on to, this is a disgustingly healthy thing you can do.
Uh-huh.
You make oatmeal and then you put spinach in it.
What?
And I know. I thought it was insane too, but I tried it to be polite. But you put spinach in the oatmeal and then you put blueberries and whatever like everything else you put in there are just reasonable things to put in oatmeal. You put spinach in, and something, I don't know how, because spinach I usually think of as being like not something that hides itself very well. But you just put it in your oatmeal and you don't even taste it, and you get like a free serving of spinach. You get an iron dump. It's healthy, yeah.
Whoa, but what about the consistency of a big slimy spinach leaf in your oatmeal?
It's not a big deal.
Really?
Tear it up, or you just mix it in. I make it in the microwave because, I'm on the go.
Going with frozen spinach?
No, you got to get fresh, Tom. And you just put it in there, you microwave it, and then you mix it in, then when you're mixing in whatever other stuff you're adding, and you don't even notice it. I've got my girlfriend eating it, even.
This sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible. But it's good. I mean, it's like you eat oatmeal and it's delicious, and then you're like, oh, and I also ate spinach unwittingly. I mean, you're aware of it. It's right in front of you. But
you can trick yourself into thinking maybe you didn't.
Yeah, it's like less, without all the heavy lifting of eating a salad.
Yeah, I remember being taught or told to crack an egg and put it in there, or egg white, and throw that into the oatmeal when you microwave it. And that didn't go well.
That's disgusting, Tom.
Wow. Normally I don't cringe at things, and I'm always willing to try something, but that one's, I may not try that.
No, it sounds horrible. I was at his house. I thought it was insane. Then I tried it, and I was like, "Oh wow!" And I've been doing it ever since.
Wow, this is weird. This is really weird. All right, before we go, do you have anything you'd like the people to know about you, or got any shows coming up?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, at long last, my comedy special, which came out as an album on 800-Pound Gorillas, The Pride of Cleveland, is being released as a special that you can watch and really see later this. But this is problematic. I don't know. I know the release date is sometime this fall, but this is really not the peak promotion.
This is the teaser.
This is the teaser. You're going to have me back on the show to really hammer the date.
As long as the phone works, I will get you back on.
Perfect. That's and when are you coming back to New York?
I think I'm coming back to do the Halloween special.
Oh yes.
On October 26th.
Perfect.
Are you around?
Of course.
Yes. That'll be fun. That's always I think that's our best show of the year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It is. Almost as scary as your oatmeal and spinach.
I don't know, I'm gonna work it out. I'm gonna get maybe that'll be the thing. Maybe that'll be my bit for the show. Is I'll bring you some of this oatmeal.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you.
All right, you too, Tom. Thank you.
All right, I'll see you soon.
All right.
All right, that's our big show. Thank you to Scott Conant. Thank you to Dave Hill. Thank you to Laithwaite's. Thank you to you. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you keep spreading the word and joining us here at Breaking Bread. You guys are the best. Keep it coming. If you go to tompapa.com, you can see my family reunion tour, see if I'm coming near you anytime soon, and drop me a line and tell me where I should eat. You guys are the best. See you next time.